The MCU has been running wild since 2008, and in its time, it's shown the ability to create amazing villains. And whatever the fuck these guys are. So I thought to myself, with Phase 5 and 6 in the present and near future, let's look back on Phases 1 through 4 and discuss the overall best villain of each phase. The criteria to rank among the best is as follows. Number 1, success. As I've always said, villains need to be more successful in movies. Going the entire movie without accomplishing anything or close to nothing has never made much sense to me. And trust me, the MCU has its fair share of one-off villains who never made anyone sweat. So in order to make this list, you have to have multiple movies of tomfoolery, creating problems that last longer than one closing act. Number 2, motive. Now for me personally, motive has never been a huge deal. Some of my favorite villains of all time are just evil because they want to. Villains like Palpatine, Doflamingo, and Darkseid, just to name a few. But I can see why this factor is very important for most people. The reason why they became villains and what all their actions are for. Whether that's revenge, the greater good, or proving themselves to everyone. Number 3, memorability. This is a direct effect of the previous two. If the villain causes long-lasting damage and the audience has a sense of understanding on why they've become what they've become, people aren't going to forget them, and they're going to want to see them again. And when they do, they'll be met with open arms. Being memorable also includes their dialogue, their looks, and their presence on screen. Before I get into the video, y'all already know what to do.
Maximum pulse.
I'm sure everybody already knows the deal. This phase is a clear stomp. I mean, who the fuck? What? I don't even remember this dude's name. Get your ass out of here. These bums have absolutely nothing on the winner of Phase 1, Loki. This is the villain that kicked off everything, and he remains one of the most loved antagonists, if you can even call him that anymore, in the MCU. Now, at this point in time, I don't even think Loki would be considered a villain anymore. With his multiple reappearances throughout every phase of the MCU and his own TV series, this automatically checks number 3 off the list. Going from one of the most memorable villains to just being one of the most memorable characters in the MCU, heroes included. And as for the other 2 requirements,
The fuck is that?
I don't know. If we're strictly talking about his time as the main villain, he definitely didn't do as much as he could have. Yes, he caused Hawkeye to turn bad for a few hours, and he did start a war in New York City for a day, and he caused some emotional damage towards characters like Tony Stark, but in comparison towards other villains down the line, he didn't really do that much. But due to him being the first big bad, and all of the other lackluster villains in Phase 1, Loki clearly stands out as the most successful and most memorable.
And I will not be bullied by that.
While he may be a villain, Loki is not entirely evil, as we've been shown, and I highly doubt anyone would disagree with this choice, which I can't say for Phases 2 and 3. Now, I really want to. I want to choose Ultron for Phase 2, but I just can't choose Ultron over Bucky. The Winter Soldier is the best MCU movie, tied with Civil War in my opinion, and one of, if not the main reason, is the relationship between Captain America and Bucky. After Bucky's quote-unquote death in the first Avenger, Bucky returns in the Winter Soldier, but not as the friend we all remember. Instead, he's turned into an emotionally distant, highly trained, brainwashed killer and forced to carry out Hydra's bidding without any knowledge of his past life. Steve's greatest villain isn't even a supervillain, it's his best friend. And I'm sure you probably guessed, Bucky shines in Requirement 2. Steve just wants to save his friend, but the Winter Soldier is so far gone that at times he's beyond saving. This dynamic is what elevates Bucky above other Phase 2 villains like Ultron, whose motive was basically going on Twitter and deciding that the whole planet gotta go. I honestly understand. Now you might ask, Worms, was Bucky even that successful though? And honestly, this motherfucker has caused an ass load of problems in the MCU, indirectly or not. I mean, this dude killed both of Iron Man's parents, killed countless randoms for Hydra and the KGB, and was putting the work on Captain America and Black Widow at the same time. Now, this one might have not been entirely Bucky's fault, but he's sorta at the center of why the Avengers split up in Civil War. I mean, do y'all see Black Panther chasing my mans right here? The rift he created between Iron Man and Captain America alone is good enough to place him over Ultron. Again, he was alive for 5 seconds, went on the internet, and decided to nuke everybody. Again, that's kind of based. Obviously, Bucky's still a part of the MCU now, so he hasn't been forgotten, checking off number 3 on our list.
Never did that move.
After the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm sure Bucky will pop up again, so I have to give him Phase 2. Now this is the big one, and you might think Phase 3 is a clear stomp. I mean, it isn't called the Infinity Saga for no reason.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
And I will get ready to face the disagreement I'm about to get after saying this, but I have to give Zemo Phase 3. Now you have to let me explain. You gotta hear me out. Both of these guys hit all 3 requirements, and they're both amazing villains. However, you might say, Worms, isn't Thanos galaxies ahead of Zemo's in terms of memorability? Yes, he is. But where Zemo lacks in memorability, Thanos lacks in success. The reason I rank Zemo higher than Thanos is that Zemo created an unfixable rift between the Avengers that split into 2 sides, Team Cap and Team Iron Man. This has never recovered in the MCU.
And guess what, Cap? We lost. And you weren't there.
Before Civil War, the Avengers were fucking tight, full trust in each other. But after the knowledge released that Bucky killed Tony's parents and Steve knew but never said anything, it was over. Now, this movie has a lot to do with Sokovia, which we can thank Ultron for, but Zemo said it best.
I knew I couldn't kill them. More powerful men than me have tried. If I could get them to kill each other.
The Avengers have never been the same since Civil War, and I like to think that's why they lost in Infinity War. These guys were not as put together as they were in the previous Avengers movie. Now, before you say, but Worms, Thanos won in Infinity War and killed half of the population, including multiple important characters. Yes, he did, and if the story ended there, Thanos would not only be the best MCU villain, he would be the best villain in any piece of fiction anywhere. Definitely the most successful. But the story doesn't end there, does it? No. Avengers Endgame is the sole reason that Thanos falls just under Zemo. When the dust settles, what did Thanos truly accomplish? Sure, the emotional damage due to the 5-year time skip, I'm willing to give him that. But that's kind of it. All the lives he took in the snap, plus the important characters, all of them returned. He killed Gamora, but not really. He killed Vision, but not really. He killed Tony, but not really. He ruined Thor, but not really. The only thing that truly stuck from Thanos' reign was the death of Black Widow, and he didn't even kill her, so that kind of doesn't count. Everything more or less has returned to normal. Even Mysterio has more long-lasting damage than Thanos did, that being the whole world has forgotten Peter because he told everyone his secret identity. Everyone has returned or come back to life in one way or another, which tanks Thanos enough to fall below Zemo. Now, Phase 4 was dominated mostly by TV shows, and for the movies that did happen in this phase, there were some sorry-ass villains. I mean, Taskmaster, sorry. Gore, sorry. Whatever the fuck this was in Eternals, sorry. Wanda?
I don't know.
But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Green Goblin was going crazy in Spider-Man No Way Home. So I'm going to give this phase to the Sinister Six as a whole, if you want to call them that. Finally, they gave Spider-Man a set of villains that Tony couldn't bail him out of. Everything about Green Goblin was absolutely perfect. His motive, his memorability have already been set by the Tobey movies. Everybody loves Green Goblin, especially Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. But going to another universe and deciding to kill an alternate version of Aunt May is ridiculous work. The moment his glider absolutely bulldozed Aunt May, I knew Green Goblin would once again be at the top of Spider-Man's villain list. Peter wanted to be all nice and try and return these guys home, and now look what happened. Look what happened. I mean, Green Goblin absolutely smacked Aunt May right here. This was insane. I couldn't believe it in theaters, and I automatically knew that Green Goblin was the best villain of Phase 4. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments who you think the best villain is for each phase of the MCU and what else you'd like me to talk about. I'll see you guys in the next video.